Welcome to our podcast today. Today I have Byron Poe with us from Info Systems. He's one of our engineers, and we're going to speak about VDI. Byron, what does VDI actually stand for?
That'd be virtual desktop infrastructure, Robert. And how are you doing today?
I am doing well, sir. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well in this crazy time that we're dealing in. So, virtual desktop infrastructure. So, that's really dealing with remote users being able to use uh, seamless sign on or things of that nature. Is that correct?
That's part of it. With virtual desktops, you think of old school terminal servers where you had a applications that you would remote into through remote desktop sessions. That is still the premise. It's just you have a customized area now. That is your machine. So that what that empowers you to do is to bring your own computer or bring your own device plan. So you can use your home equipment. Say you have a desktop at your small business and you've got equipment at the house. Rather than pack up all that equipment from your office and then take it home, you could then start using your home equipment to connect into the machine back at the office. Um, Historically, it's been a little cost prohibitive for the small business world. It's been more on the enterprise side where the departments would use the exact same image to cut down on time that IT departments would have to spend on doing updates and making sure that all the desktops are all the same. With VDI now in the COVID world, we're starting to see more movement towards remote desktop sessions. Where you can use certificated connections instead of going through and setting up VPN connections. And while you can use a VPN to secure your VDI connection, it's not a hard requirement.
Well, let's talk about that just a minute. So around security, I mean, would this be a benefit to security for small medium businesses as you know, as you pointed out, the whole remote workforce and people having to work from the house and now they're using their personal equipment. Would this help or hurt security?
It will help, as in the computer systems. So you're not having to pay and secure a home machine. You're not worrying about the antivirus. You're not worrying about what games or programs are installed on the device because it's just a remote session between your machine and the work machine that is a virtual client. And that way, it's in a secure container. The only real traffic that's coming back and forth between the two machines is just the change of what the image is. You're actually sending commands remotely.
So screen refresh and keyboard and mouse movement basically is what we're getting at.
Right. That's correct.
Okay. Well, how well does this scale up or scale down? If I'm a small business owner and I've got 5 people and we hit a growth spurt and we want to change and go up to maybe 10, 15, even 20 people, is it really difficult? Is it hard? Can you speak to some of that?
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple. So in that case, if they're all using the same image, then you just spin up additional clients on whatever you're using as a host. If whether it be a server that's in your own office or a hosted solution through a provider, you can be able to easily scale up. And then scaling down is simple as well. If you have a cost reduction, you can then delete the user's PCs out of the system.
Okay.
You can look at there's two separate systems when you're thinking about when you're sizing the architecture on the back end is the persistent side, which is going to save all your files, save all your customizations in that desktop environment, or non-persistent, which means every time you sign in, you're getting a fresh box. From that perspective, it makes it easier on management to, if you're doing a cookie cutter type job, it's there for you. As soon as you sign in, it's clean. It's got the best performance it can have, and it's ready to go.
So in other words, they could customize something per department, if you will. If you had an engineering department, they could have an image for that, or if you had the back office, the admin team, you could have an image for that. And you don't necessarily, you're not locked into having either you have the pristine or you can have the customizable where they can save content and things like that, right? You could actually do kind of both in the same organization. Is that correct?
You would have a different image file for each area, and then you would have the choice of persistent or non-persistent for each image file. Okay. So your engineers would have an image for a desktop of that nature. So, your engineering programs are installed on that. Your accounting department would have its accounting images on there. And then if it's persistent or non-persistent would be the customization and files that could be stored there instead of on a file server.
Cool. Good information. So from a small business perspective, I mean, does it take a lot of hardware to run something like this? I mean, are you talking massive compute systems, or can it be something done in more of on a smaller platform and it can scale up or down?
You need to have virtualization technology, whether it be through a couple of the big players that are out there. I'm not going into names on this podcast, but there are some players in this space that you need to size correctly based upon their recommendations. You need it to at least storage capacity. If you're doing persistent, you need to make sure that storage increases dramatically compared to non-persistent images.
Okay. So in general, do you think interest is growing in this area from a small to medium business point of view because, as we've referred already to the whole COVID-19 situation, or do you feel like it's kind of waning away from this as people have more laptops and they just do direct dial-ins?
It's kind of going back and forth. Traditionally, this environment has kind of ebbed and flowed for the past 12 years. It was kind of on a decline before COVID, where it was strictly moving towards the enterprise level. But now that with COVID here, we're seeing definitely a resurgence in interest in a market that we really haven't been seeing an interest in with that small and mid-sized business.
All right, good. Appreciate that. So it sounds like it can be a secure platform. It does have benefits because you're only sending, screen grabs and keyboard mouse movements. So it should be fairly quick and efficient. It does scale up and down, so that's always a good thing, especially as a small business may grow or wane depending on the industry. And it does sound like general interest is gaining in this area because of the forced remote work that we're having to get into now. Mm-hmm. So all good points. Thank you, Byron. I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate you joining us on this podcast. We'll look forward to talking with you in the future. With that,
thank you, Robert.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you later.